What now? And whose hair is this? That's a blast from the past. Okay. Um, I think things are working. Forgive the lighting. Yeah. I don't know. So yes, my name is Jeffrey Cairns, and I really got to work on this lighting situation because I'm just watching. I have Bob turn different colors, and let's see how this works out. Is this better? You don't need to see me really. Okay, so wow. Yeah, my name is Jeffrey Cairns. I am an addictions counselor, public speaker, and a consultant. Um, why? Why am I doing what I do? Um, Through my whole life, I've always wanted to help people, or I've always been drawn to help people. Um, I've always the way my process has always gone in life is that I'm a slow learner and a good teacher. And a few years back, I to sum it up, I broke my life. I broke my life on all levels. As a business person, father, friend, pet owner. Yeah, it was bad. I made a ton of mistakes, and it just got worse from there. And my situation was very unique. It wasn't the worst that can happen to a human being in life. It was just unique. So I really felt alone because there's nobody I could really talk to because I was like, no one knows what I'm going through. No one knows that story. And that belief system, hell, that belief system almost killed me. My body was starting to shut down. I didn't really want to live. And I didn't have money for therapy. I personally believe in pharmaceuticals. Don't mean to offend anybody, but I just believe like kind of like clozapams, razopams, the benzos. I believe those just kind of like numb the pain. They don't really kind of get to the core of what's going on. So what happened? It actually all came to a peak when my dad died a couple of years ago, very suddenly. Got a phone call, just found dead in his apartment. And my father, a very good human being, very good person, and he ended up, I don't know if he lost the battle. Like, it was heart failure, but the years of alcoholism didn't help. No one ever dies of alcoholism. They'll die of like, liver failure, heart failure, stroke, stuff like that. So it really goes a lot of time undiagnosed. And that's when my life probably became the roughest. And depression, anxiety, symptoms of PTSD. My mind was always in fight or flight. Like there was something going on that I had to be scared of, and I would put my happiness, if you will, like you know, into the future. Like eventually this will get better. Eventually this will get better. You just have to survive today. You just have to get through today. That was one of the biggest lies. I don't know if somebody told me or if I believed it, because what I'm going to try and show you, how I learned it, is that time does not heal all wounds. Time just gives it enough time to take that painful emotion, that painful scenario, or multiple of painful scenarios, that generated a whole bunch of sadness, anger, guilt, grief, everything else, and just put it in the subconscious. And the price of the subconscious, yes, when your subconscious absorbs something, you're not conscious of it anymore, and you can move forward. But the price of the subconscious is that memory, and that memory of that painful experience is going to eventually just sit in your subconscious. So that pain is sitting in your mind and is sitting in your body. So, sorry, I just thought I got my first viewer. Oh, they left. That sucks balls. Anyways, um, so yeah, it all this subconscious pain that was going on was literally just killing my life. I couldn't get happy no matter how hard I tried. Self help books, videos, everything else. Did they help? Yes, absolutely. Um, but I was doing it on a thinking level. I was thinking about healing my pain, like, positive thoughts, positive body. And sure enough, that can really work for somebody who's stuck. But for somebody who's depressed, somebody who is hurting, somebody who's anxious, somebody who's yeah, depression, anxiety. I'm just broad stroking it. Don't need to go into super details. Um, oh, my ADD kicked in a little bit. Yeah, so that subconscious pain over enough time was starting to kill my body, was starting to kill my mind. I was pushing people away. I just wasn't answering the calls. It was like, give me a reason to cut you off, and you were cut off. Cut you off like a sociopath. And only till I realized that I was only trying to do one thing when I had to do two things. I was trying to think without trying to feel. I wasn't willing to feel what's going on. And anybody with depression or anxiety will tell you that life's just not good. Like, or they have no energy, or they gotta self-medicate with like sugar and caffeine to try and get their energy levels up. And see, where your thoughts go, energy flows. And your body needs energy. And we get a certain amount of energy a day, if you will. Like, picture us being a bank, and we'll have a certain amount, like say $100 of energy. But as soon as we wake up in the morning, as soon as you become conscious, you don't even have to open your eyes, but as soon as you become conscious, your mind's already in the future or it's in the past. And that the reason that is, which I learned the hard way, is because of emotional pain. This is the stuff, like, I call this the fractured soul. You have no energy to be in the present moment because your mind, consciously and subconsciously, is either in the future, bills, work, personal dreams that just aren't coming true, drama. We all know that. Kids, how are you looking as you get older, or how, like, depression can age you terribly, and same with anxiety. You just becoming older and older every time you look in the mirror, and it's like, and that just adds to the pile on why you're not going to be happy. Health, mind and body, body and mind, I'll go into that later. Your own death, or maybe losing somebody, like, I can't love them because I might lose them, like, that will just stop any type of feeling the goodness. Your past, this is more on a subconscious level, and like that, like breakups, failures, mistakes, childhood years, teenage years. For me, childhood wasn't so bad. A lot of insecurity. I was a fat kid who was insecure, trying to get people's attention. That didn't go over so well. Teenage years, shed the weight, and in between this and this, alcoholism kind of crept into the family. Like, it became prevalent, and that was, teenage years were shit. Like, and I don't blame anybody. Just it was difficult. It was like, I went from being picked on and bullied to being the bully. Why? All because of emotional pain. It's crazy. And thinking about loved ones that you lost, that you can't let go of, and this can generate so much pain that we really don't know how to deal with. So yeah, now what I learned I won't like, how's this? I don't have anxiety. Like if I get anxiety now, it's pretty much induced. Like I'll wake up in the morning, couple cups of coffee, you don't eat, you've got anxiety. And when you're sitting there drinking or you're putting crap into your body, and what happens is that your mind is like, oh, I know that feeling. Like, when you crash off sugar, you crash off caffeine, crash off drugs, crash off cigarettes. When you just crash, when you take that quick fix, there's always a price. You go down. And as you go down, your body's like, okay, I got like your mind is like, you know what? I got thoughts to match that. So I learned I actually learned 6 words. 6 words. Like I was going to seminars and everything else, trying to heal. And with books and videos and everything else, when it comes to emotionally feeling better, I started to see a common connection. There's like a common theme, but wrapped in like 700 pages just to make them look smart or that's their value. Sorry, that was kind of cynical of me, but it's true. And I realized that I wasn't feeling. I thought I was, but I really didn't know. Like, I was raised that, feelings are weak, feelings are a burden, emotions are a burden. We just don't talk about them. If you cry, I'll give you something to cry about. Or if you cry, just, stop crying right now. Just very unhealthy programming. See, as human beings, if we think, we feel. So, what I learned was, and anybody who's been following me kind of from last year to the beginning, is I came up with as left. Um, Acceptance, surrender, love, empathy, forgiveness, and tolerance. As left. And that is actually kind of evolved, if you will. It's actually down to 4 words. And those 4 words is safe, feeling safe. That's surrender, acceptance, forgiveness, and empathy. When you learn these 4 words and how they apply to your life, just yours, not anybody else's, what it does is it makes you become aware of what's going on in your mind and what's going on in your body. And the problem today is we've got, what is it? The last time I checked the stats, there's 45 million Americans that have been clinically, reported with anxiety and depression um, that's over the population of Canada. Now, granted, there's I think 360 million Americans versus our like 36 million Canadians. So, and even in Canada, the numbers are rising. And in Canada, we are such a multicultural country that it's like nowadays, if you say anything, oh, that's offensive. That's this, that's that. And you know what? It's like people are walking around on friggin' eggshells. It takes that pretty much that one person who's just like, I don't care. And they'll almost like offend people on kind of on purpose just because they don't like it. Now, I'm getting off on a little bit of a tangent here, but basically, is if somebody's offended, they have emotional pain. If you can't understand that, see, I could speak something and somebody will get mad at me just for a truth. I didn't talk to them. I didn't insult them. I said something that obviously goes against some of their core beliefs. And they're now mad at me and I should apologize or they have to hate on me. And it's like, why would you give me or anybody else power over your happiness? Why would you do that? That's just silly. So, uh, I'm just shooting from the hip here right now because I'm actually just super nervous and kind of just, oh, yeah. Anyways, but this has to be done. This has to be, it was funny. A few years ago, back in 2011 or 2012, I was doing this project, livetattooing.com, and I was hosting shows and blah, blah, blah. And I was working on a couple of other projects. And the girlfriend and I at the time went to go see a psychic. And the psychic was like, I told her what was going on. I told her what was going on in life and everything else. And she was like, she's like, for some reason, she's like, I see you surrounded by a lot of people, and she's like, and you're helping them. And I'm like, okay, I didn't make sense. Didn't to where I'm at in my path and everything else and blah blah blah, and it just did not make sense. Fast forward 6 years later, it's starting to make sense. So let me switch on to kind of something else. Let me get rid of you. And let's go with this one. See, when I talk to people, ooh, look at that, the lighting's come back. So when I talk to people about my solution, I think it's too much brightness, too much white. Yeah. So let me show you something here. So whenever I tell people about how to heal and how to, when I give them the solution on how to heal, they are mostly like, well, Jeff, that's great. That's your reality. Like, that's your life. Like, that doesn't apply to me. And I was like, and I thought about it because the solution I have for healing your emotional pain works for everybody. Everybody. You just got to be cognitive enough. So, what I was trying to show, which is not really showing up on the screen, but you can find this. I've got this on my website or even on my Facebook page. So, this is the mind and body, thoughts and feelings. And they say, well, Jeff, that's your life. That's not my life. And I say, well, wouldn't you say that's your reality? Your reality says you can't heal your pain, or what works for me doesn't work for you. I disagree. So I really had to draw it. I had to map it out because our reality is made up of our perception. All right. Now, what creates our perception of life? Our attitudes and beliefs. And how did we get these attitudes and beliefs? This was through our life experiences. So when we're growing up, like, so according to Freud and some other smart people, when we're born, from the day we're born till about age 6 and 7, our core beliefs are developed. They are so basically, how we're going to love, how we're going to hate, how we're going to empathize, how we're going to forgive is all done by the age of 6 and 7. 6 and 7. So pretty much when we're learning how to do our shoelaces, how we're going to interact with life has already been set. So that means if we had a rough beginning, if you will, maybe neglectful parents or tragedy, stuff like that, these are core beliefs, and they sit. See this line right here? So this is the conscious mind. That's the subconscious mind. And there's positive and negative experiences filled in there. Now, those thoughts, every one of those thoughts have feelings attached to them. And because they're core beliefs, that means there's very strong feelings attached to them. And that could be love, or it can be anger, it could be fear, it could be hate, resentment, regret. And it's all sitting in here. So those feelings are going to dictate how our perception is. It's going to dictate, these feelings are going to dictate our attitudes and beliefs. So if we have enough pain sitting back in here, our perception is going to be mostly negative. It makes perfect sense. But see, there's another part on top of this. The energy that you have, the energy like that your thoughts generate energy. What are emotions? They are the residuals of thoughts. That's all they are. They are not weakness. They are not burden. Well, they can be a burden, but they are a part of us, and it's the one part we're trying to cut off. Like, you'll see that people talk about. Let me get rid of this. You'll see that people talk about. I forgot what I was gonna say. Life experiences, perception, and how we. Oh, there we go. So, in the last couple of years, corporations and people are trying to make a big skeptic on mental awareness. Now, if I Google mental awareness right now, mental, cognitive, thinking, okay? And and I was like, okay, yeah. Like let's try and heal the depression. Let's try and heal the anxiety. And listen, man, if you go to any professional with a problem, you're usually leaving with a script. Like, okay, we're gonna give you something to help. And I don't agree with that. See, mental awareness. Mental comes from the cortex, right? This part, from our frontal lobes, and the cortex works with the limbic system, and the limbic system is what's in charge of like our feelings, our emotions, like when we get high, when we get drunk, when we or love and everything else, hate. It's all coming from the limbic system. Now, and you can Google this, please, by all means, man. Don't take my word for it. Do the research, do the work, and you'll see the cortex is in service to the limbic system. So that mostly, not all, like everything, you do need both. But so they're saying try to think your way out of emotional pain. But it's emotional pain or the emotions that the limbics has, the memory of, will dictate the thoughts. So when we're trying to fix our mind, when we're trying to fix our lives, it's like, and you look at it from a mental awareness over an emotional awareness, it's like trying to fix a car, like trying to fix the engine, but you're going in through the trunk. You're going in through the back of the car to get to the engine. Because if you heal the emotions, the thoughts take care of themselves. Like the last time you had a good day, like the last time things were good in your life, and super negative people are like, oh, I can't remember that. Okay, whatever. I'm not talking to you then. I'm talking about like the last time you actually felt love, like the last time you actually felt cared for. And if you haven't ever in your life, it is possible, but you gotta work on the emotions. And when it comes to working on the emotions, there's only one thing you can do. One thing. Oh, sorry, you can suppress them and repress them. And how's that working out so far for you in life? Besides suppression and repression, the one thing we can do is we can surrender to it. When I learned the power of surrender, when I learned that, like, first I had to learn what emotions are not. They are not weakness, they are not burden. This is an energy that sits in the mind and it sits in the body. Healers from 5,000 years ago worked on the emotions. Anybody who's done energy work, Reiki, stuff like that will tell you. They get, like, the Reiki Bible can pinpoint physical ailments due from emotions. And if you heal the emotions, most of the time the physical ailment has healed. When I learned this technique and I started surrendering to my emotions, my body started to become better. My body started to heal. So, and I thought this was unique only to me. Only when I started sharing with people about kind of my life and like the screw ups or the problems, but with a solution, like how I cured it, I realized that it works for everybody. Everybody. And see, when it comes to emotional pain, like when you gain this awareness, it starts to mess with you a little bit. It really does, because you start to see other people's pain. You're not going to see the story. Like you might relate to the story, you might not relate to the story. But one thing you will is being like, okay, I know that emotion. I know that sadness. Like everyone gets pissed off at somebody for being angry, and we want to shame them for being angry or put them down or put them in their place and everything else. What is anger? And trust me, coming from a person who was an angry person growing up, anger is just a call for help. And another thing people don't even realize is that anger is a secondary emotion. You have to feel a primary emotion first before you can even become angry. And that emotion is fear. But we have anger management classes, but we don't have fear management classes. So if I can show the purpose, the reason, one of the major reasons why I'm doing this and willing to put myself out there is because I got to live in this planet. I got like, and you know what? Now I live my life. I empathize with people. I forgive people. I don't really hold the grudge, the Irish grudge anymore, um, because holding a grudge only hurts me. Being mad at you only hurts me. Being in that much pain or hating that much only hurts me. And if you're angry, you're only hurting you. If you're holding a grudge, you're only hurting you. This light dimmer's pissing me off. Let me see if I can fix it. Let me see. Oh, we're gonna get a little more intimate now. Ooh. So, what do I want to share? What do I want to make sure I get my points across? Because I'm starting to sweat here, man. No one's phoning in yet, and this room's hot. So, yeah, and I really don't feel like hearing myself talk. So, what can I go with? Let's show. Let me see. And there we go. Me again. Okay, let me see here. All right. So this is conscious thoughts and feelings versus subconscious feelings and thoughts. So CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, or positive thinking is like, okay, I'm going to have positive thoughts which will result into positive feelings. Sure, that works most of the time when you're super cognitive of it and you're super conscious of it, and you're just like, yeah, okay, I gotta change my right now. I'm being negative. I gotta be positive. Sure, give it enough time, you can reprogram the brain and everything else. But there's still like a lot of people slip because they're not dealing with the back end. They're not dealing with the subconscious pain, like those bad experiences. I call subconscious pain the unforgiven, because that's exactly what it is. It's experiences that have happened to you in life. Either you acted a certain way or somebody acted to you a certain way, and it's unhealed. It's unforgiven. You didn't forgive yourself. You didn't forgive them. You didn't forgive God, if that's your thing. So, what if you are going to see? This is the funny thing about the mind, okay? Is that so? Thoughts, feelings, whether it's negative thoughts, oh, negative thoughts, it hurts the body. Positive thoughts, oh, it feels good on the body, will generate the feelings. But see, if you want to heal, when I learned how to get in touch with my subconscious pain, like the dark room pain. First, my first sign was if I got offended by anything. Because if I got offended, it doesn't mean I act offended, it doesn't mean I acted on it, but I witnessed something and I'm like, oh, I'm like, shit, I got subconscious pain right now. It's going against my belief systems. So, what we do, if you want to heal your subconscious pain, you have to be willing to feel it. It will not last forever. See, the way though the subconscious works is if you want to know what caused that pain in the first place, you have to feel it first. Allow the pain to come to the surface. And when you surrender to it and it releases, then guess what happens? The story comes, the thoughts. And these thoughts, like what triggered you right now in that moment, it's not what made you snap. It's not what's hurting you. What's hurting you is the pain. Like what's making you react that way is so many different experiences. Say one major experience that's unhealed that's making you react that way. And you'll get the feeling first, surrender to it, then the thoughts come, the story comes, and that is your chance. This is your moment. It's your chance. While you're getting out all that energy, you're not hurting anymore. Yeah, it feels a little uncomfortable in the moment, but you're not hurting anymore. And if you're not hurting anymore, then you can hear the story. The story doesn't hurt as much because you're not resisting feeling it. So, and in that time, when the story comes again, you can empathize with it. You can forgive it. You can forgive yourself. And guess what happens, you've exhausted all the energy, you've replayed the story, but this time you looked at it through a lens of forgiveness and empathy. Guess what happens? No more pain to be generated because you ain't thinking about it. You've forgiven it, and now it's gone completely. You can always pull it back. That's up to you. You have that choice if you want to. So, yeah. I wish somebody would call and tell me so I can help, because this is starting to bug me. This is what happens when you have like no money, no budget. Like, I'm just gonna throw an ad. Yeah, sure. People are just gonna call a complete stranger and be like, "Yes, heal me." Okay, this one. This is for anybody. If you've got any type of friend that is like they're stuck, you'll hear them say like, "I'm numb," or "I'm living in a fog," or um, you know, what's the fog, numbness, or it being like, "I just don't feel anymore." And when you become aware, see one situation, and I'll go with a major situation, say like a breakup, um, a horrible, horrible breakup. I'm good at breakups. I've had a lot of experience. Uh, Now, one breakup, one experience can generate multiple emotions all at once. See, a lot of people, when they go through stuff, they're like, "I'm in shock," because the mind hasn't even had time to be like, "I don't even know how I feel about this because I haven't even dissected it all. I haven't even seen everything. It just got hit with me." But see, one experience can generate despair, hate, sadness, fear, shame, guilt, anger, regret, humiliation, because that experience generated, because it's hitting on a subconscious level. You already have core beliefs to what is going to be and what is not going to be, like how you're going to act and how you're not going to act, or how you're going to feel and how you're not going to feel, basically. So one experience can generate so much pain that the mind is like, "I don't even know where to begin. I don't even know what to do with this." So I call it the bottleneck. It's just too much, and the mind's like, "No." And with most people's belief system towards emotions and feelings, it just all we're really left with is suppression. So this exercise, which I kind of learned on my own, like there's a couple of books that kind of talked about it, but like nothing ever like this. So if you're sitting in a fog, or you're numb, or you're just not feeling good and you can't pinpoint why, what you're going to do, this exercise works in two ways. One, you can write down the experience. And when I say to write down the experience, that's more for people who are like, "I can't get the scenario out of my head. I can't get the person out of my head. I can't get, scenario or person." Just, and it's like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And you can't. You even, sometimes you even become consciously aware that you're exhausting yourself doing this. Yeah, it's no good. So this exercise really helped me, and it helps other people connect. So you write down the experience. What was it? So for me, say a breakup, and be like, "What about that breakup made me angry?" And I just start writing, just start writing, just start writing, just start writing, just start writing. And I'll be like, "What about this experience made me fearful? Like, am I going to find somebody else? Have I wasted time in my life and this and that, blah, blah, blah." Guilt, look, maybe I should have acted like this. Maybe I should have done that. If I only did this and if I only did that. Regret. Ooh, that's a big one. Humiliation, another big one, man. Humiliation and shame aren't that far off from each other. And shame and humiliation, as it goes for all the emotions a human being can feel, shame and humiliation is the worst. If you've got too much shame and humiliation, your life process subconsciously, maybe even consciously, is destruction. You destroy yourself. Even that energy thinking about it stresses out your body, your organs, and you just don't want to feel this way. Half the time, drugs or distraction. That's like I haven't met anybody yet in recovery that hasn't had their healthy dose of shame or fear. So, I mean, or guilt. And guilt is actually the difference between guilt and shame. Like people are like, oh, I feel guilty that I did that. No, guilt is like you don't like what you're doing in the process. Shame is like, I don't like me because I did it. Big difference. Big difference. So, so you write down the experience and you start going through all the emotions. Which helps to do is helps your mind being like, okay, that's what we're feeling. And in that moment, you'll know you hit something good or important because you'll start to be overwhelmed. Like you'll start to get really uncomfortable. That's when you surrender. You do not fight it. You let that energy out of you. Okay. So where am I at? How can I fuck? I still have like an hour and 20 minutes. And nobody's calling. Surprise, surprise, my first show. So, yeah. And here's another interesting thing about emotions. Elon Musk was on the Joe Rogan podcast, Joe Rogan Experience. Joe, I'm coming for you, buddy. um, and he was talking about AI. And yeah, when he talks about AI, it's scary, very scary. Uh, what it can do. It's like letting the genie out of the bottle. It's like we're creating our masters. So weird. But I was kind of like, okay, I was taken back by that. But he's saying like what they're using as their platform and what they're using as base is social networking. And what they're doing is they're actually pretty much analyzing and grabbing the data from the limbic resonance. So like how we feel about stuff. You know, when somebody posts on Facebook or social media and it's like, oh, today I'm strong and everything else because they're like, I need to show that because I'm not being strong. They're projecting their weakness by actually doing it ass backwards. And they can actually analyze this data and they're pulling it in. So they're actually pulling in our subconscious emotions. That's what they're analyzing. That's what they're creating AI around. And I wouldn't be so concerned about that, except for a lot of people in life today are in pain. They're in pain and they're projecting it. I could probably sit for an hour and talk about projection. So, but I don't want to. Yeah, so it's kind of concerning that it's kind of concerning because it's just analyzing, it's pulling in people's pain. And especially on social media, man, like people get a little braver on social media or they get a little more angry on social media because they can't do it in their jobs or they can't do it in their everyday life. So there's suppression. If they see somebody like post an opinion and say it's not even one you agree with. Most of the times when somebody gives a hardcore opinion, you'll see somebody be like, just go kill yourself. And it's like, what are you doing? Why are you saying that stuff? And they're saying that stuff because they're in pain. But we'll shame them. We'll do whatever. So yeah, it so here's the theory, because I think I'm gonna cut this show short on this one and realize what I want to do and what I don't want to do and bloody well fix this lighting situation because this needs to happen. Because I literally, I know this might sound like a gimmick, but I literally can teach you how to heal your emotional pain using just 4 words. Like 4 words as the core. Like it's just your go to. And we'll start with I talked about surrender. If you're willing to feel everything your mind generated and you're willing to exhaust it, it will go. It won't stay forever. And I promise you that. I promise you. Because a lot of people who are holding so much pain, when I talk to them about it, they're just like, no, no. And a lot of them, when I peel back the layers of the onion and I try and get them to kind of share with me, they're like, Jeff, if I started crying right now, I am so scared that I might not stop. And you know what? I've been there. There's times like the like that shadow self type trigger, and it's just like there's one time I surrendered. It wasn't taking so long, but it was so intense that my brain, like my body, was forcing me to yawn because I just kept crying, man. It wouldn't stop. It did stop, but my body was forcing me to breathe in air while I'm still crying. It was just it's crazy. But yes, it did stop. And guess what? The next day, I felt better, and that pain never came back. So keep this in mind. Feeling safe. Safe. 4 words: surrender, acceptance, forgiveness, and empathy. See, our depression, our emotional pain, I call that the unforgiven. Okay, like we got shit in our past that we just not accept, like we just haven't forgiven. Basically, we haven't accepted it either. And you'll know people who haven't accepted the bad shit in their life when you hear them say, I wish. I just wish that they did this. I wish I had acted like that. I wish this and I wish that. Those wishes are just causing them more and more pain. So not only did that painful experience that originally happened, which could be decades ago or years ago, but the wishing just creates even more pain to hurt. It's insane. So wishing is the exact opposite of acceptance. When you accept something, like when you look back at your past, how much have you accepted? Like, and I mean acceptance, and it's like in the dictionary term, Webster's term, the word for acceptance is that you will not try to manipulate, change, or exit any situation. On the psychological acceptance definition is that it's okay, you're going to be okay. Through all my pain and through a lot of other people's pain that I've talked to, not a lot of people will accept. They accept that life is shit. They accept that life is struggle. They accept that, everything bad's going to happen to them. No, that's an illusion you tell yourself. And guess what? It's creating more of it. So, acceptance, you can actually accept what has happened in your past. Like, it's okay. Your old programming mind is like, no, it's not. And they're going to tell you the story again. And usually that story is done in a very selfish way because that story will have your mind will have you thinking about you and just you. And all that does is cause pain. When we think about ourselves, especially when something didn't go right, when we just think about ourselves, and it's the ego, me, myself, and I, ego, all ego statements. This unconscious psyche is creating so much pain in our lives, in our mind, and in our body. This is what's happening. So, to start, you're going to accept what has happened in your past. It's okay. You're okay. You're going to be okay. All this emotion is probably going to start coming to the surface. Oh my God. Just. Oops, that was live. So, when you accept, like overthinkers, I am an overthinker. Overthinking, we're always kind of in a fight or flight mode. Like we're in defense. Like, what if this happens? I'm going to have to do this. What if they say this? I'm going to have to do that. What if that happens? I'm going to have to say this. Well, if they say this, then I'm going to have to say that. And if they do that, then I'm going to have to act like that. And they better not do act like that, because if they do, I'm going to do this. All these stories creating all this pain, and we never tell ourselves while we're like, now I do. So I haven't stopped. Like I tried the meditation thing and everything else, and I do meditate, but not to stop overthinking. To really help overthinking, you just tell yourself, like as you're playing out the stories, like being like, I'm worried about this, and oh, what if this happens? What if this? Blah, 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 blah. Make sure you end with, and it'll be okay. What if it isn't? It will be. You'll survive. It'll be okay. It'll be okay. And when you start putting that, like, so your body's building up stress, your body's building up stress, your body's building up stress, as soon as you go into acceptance, you just shut up. So, yeah, when you start putting that little neutral feel good thought in your head, it'll eventually stay. It'll eventually, like, you right now consciously you're gonna put it in while you're overthinking. Eventually, it'll just come naturally. You overthink, you'll be like, and it'll be okay. And the more you start to believe that, yes, we're gonna go through tough times. We're gonna go through shit. And guess what? You've been through shit. You've been through a lot of shit, and you're still here. You haven't cashed out. Sure, you might be doing some things to distract and to get away from the pain and everything else, and it might become a problem, but still, you're still okay, and it's going to work. Now, our painful experiences that have happened to us in our lives, what has happened? What really happened? Like, why is there pain now? Like, how can that pain be healed? Like, you already went through the experience, you hated the experience, you might have hated the people, you might have hated what happened, but it's happened because you looked at it through your ego. What about me? What about, how do I look? How am I gonna look? Like, how does this make me feel? Don't they know what they did to me? Don't they know how they hurt me? Don't they know this is not fair to me? So when all that unresolved pain, and if you look back at your pain, you're going to look at it most of the time being like, shit, I was thinking about myself. And that's an ego psyche. It's an unconscious psyche. You do have other psyches you can go to. I don't recommend going to the lower self, because the lower self is like, I suck. Life sucks. Nothing's going to work out for me. Like that type of attitude. That's the lower self. Like this, they call it the smaller I. Then you have the ego. What about me? Me, myself, and I. Simple enough. Egotistical is not like, look at me and look how good I am and everything else. That's more like insecurity. But ego. If I'm gonna label somebody egotistical, I just listen to them, and whether it's positive or whether it's negative, if they keep using the me, myself, and I, I'm like, they are egotistical. And if I don't hear the break in the pattern, being like they're pouring, and this is the next one, going to empathy. Empathy. A lot of people tell you empathy is the one thing this world lacks. And maybe you know what, from what I've seen, I haven't met 7 billion people, okay? But from people I met, yes, empathy is like, I know somebody who turned 40 years of age, and they're like, Jeff, I just learned what empathy was like last month. 40 years on this planet, did not know what empathy was. That doesn't mean he'd never applied it, but he wasn't consciously aware, being like, because when you're angry at somebody, when you're angry, you're thinking about yourself, nothing but yourself. But as soon as you become empathetic, you stop hurting. This is what happens. As soon as you stop thinking about yourself and you put yourself into somebody else's shoes, and really try and connect with them. And empathy is like giving them the benefit of the doubt. And sometimes we need to empathize with somebody all the way back to when they were born. Like nature versus nurture. Not everybody who's born is Rosemary's Baby. Most babies just want to play. Most babies just want to love. Most babies have no ego. Like they'll take a dump in their diaper, it reeks to all high heaven, and they're like, yeah, give me a hug. I could shart, and I'm like, gotta go home. Just the night's ruined for me. And yeah, I'll admit that's kind of my ego, because I care what other people think. But it is what it is. So empathy. When you start to empathize, you immediately stop becoming angry. It takes a few minutes for the body to calm down and for you to take deeper breaths, but you've stopped angering yourself from thinking about yourself. And when you empathize with someone, you give them the benefit of doubt, because if someone's usually hurt you, like so many people, like they read one self-help book and whatever, or they read a blog and they're like, oh, that was the problem. They were a narcissist. That's the problem. They were a sociopath. Those people piss me off, but yet amuse me in the same light. Like, because I haven't met a narcissistic baby. I haven't met a sociopathic baby. Nature versus nurture. And I think their surroundings, their environment, their life experiences made them that way. But you know what? Oh, they're evil and they're this and they're that. You know what? They're hurting, man. And whether they're even maybe like it's in the super subconscious of what they're doing. I don't know. But calling somebody evil is like putting them into a box and saying, okay, God, it's your problem. Like, oh, the devil's in them. I can't do anything. I like it. Oh, God, stay away from me. But you know what? If you actually listen or read Carl Jung's work, he says the shadow self. We project. We hate what we hate about ourselves. We project it onto other people, being like, "There's the evil. It's not in me. It's over there." And when you heal that, trust me, when you become aware and you heal it, doesn't it's you start to see him in like, oh yeah, I don't like you because I can see that in me, or I acted that way one time and I hate that about me, which will lead to my next point: forgiveness. Now, why do people have so much problems with forgiveness? Like, how's this? A lot of people in pain, they have problem with forgiveness. They do. They don't like, and it's most of the time being like, I'll talk to people and like, well, I forgave them and I forgave what happened and everything else. And my question I asked them, like, have you forgiven yourself? Like, what do you mean? I was like, well, we all kind of paint a picture of ourselves in life and when we think about the future and everything else. Like, and usually when we go through any type of trauma or emotional pain, we didn't expect that. We didn't want that. So when it happens and the way we acted, because we'll lash out or we just shut right down and we push people away, but we are our biggest, harshest critics. And we have trouble forgiving ourselves. We can't forgive ourselves, or we've never been taught to. So with forgiveness, the way I always looked at forgiveness before I started on this journey was that being like, if I forgive you without an apology, then I'm letting you off the hook. I'm letting you off the hook for all the pain that you caused me. See where I'm going with this? But really, it's like, or being like, well, I'll be happy when they apologize, or it'll be better when, or the other one is if something bad happens to them, then we can forgive. Then be like, okay, well, karma got you, so who am I to hate on you anymore or any less? Um, yeah, forgiveness. We like, but see, forgiveness is one of the most selfish things we can do for ourselves as a human being. Because when you actually truly forgive something, you let it go. Like, your mind will try and play the story again, but it's got no emotion to it because you're like, I forgave it. And if there is emotion to it, then you're like, okay, I got to surrender to that. And surrendering usually takes 5 minutes. So you're down here, okay? As soon as you surrender and you give that 5 minutes to release that energy from your body, yeah, sure, feels a little awkward, but guess what? 10 minutes later, you're like, boom. And you're just coasting along. You have more energy than you did when you started that day. I've been practicing surrender. I've been teaching surrender and trying to show light to it, because here's the theory. Your mind, your body is the storage. Your body's the receptor to being like, okay, well, these negative thoughts. How do you know you're having negative thoughts? Unless you feel them in your body. That's energy stored up in your mind, stored up in your body. If you surrender to all those emotions, then the thoughts can't hurt. It can't. You've gotten rid of the energy. And at that time, when you release that pain, like, everything in this world is energy, everything. So when you release the pain, you automatically get the positive energy in. Like, there's no void, like, sure, they say like, or there is a void, but now that's dark matter or whatever. And I'm not smart enough to have this conversation. I'm really not. But basically is that in this world of energy, there's no void. So as you exhaust negative, positive has to come in no matter what. And anybody will tell you if after they have a good cry, they feel better. They feel lighter. They even giggle and everything else. And you know what? People will just sit there and be like, oh, he. And then if they laugh a little bit too much, they're like, I can't be happy right now. And then they tell themselves the story again, the thoughts, and it'll create the pain instead of sitting there being grateful that they got rid of that negative energy. Forgiveness is the most selfish things we can do for ourselves, because when you forgive something, it has no more power. But don't try and forgive out there first. Try and forgive in here first. Try and become aware of what you haven't forgiven yourself for. And you know what? You might have been a victim your whole life. I've been a victim a few times in life. And what I realized about being a victim, I hated myself for being a victim. Hated myself. I like here's the problem. And I had buried that problem even more because I was too busy hating myself for going through the problem, for being a victim. And I realized all I was doing was giving my power away to other people. And that's what happens with a lot of assault, verbal, physical, sexual. We give our power away. Anybody, and I'll be this straight up. Anybody. You don't have to heal. You don't have to forgive your abusers. You don't have to. But if you don't, you're giving them your power. And when I looked at my abusers in life, when I could think about it without it hurting because of surrender, and I looked at it, I was like, wow, they abused me because they were abused and they projected it onto me. Now, is that fair? Absolutely not. No. But it's human nature. We project. We project love, we project hurt, we project pain and everything else, blah, blah, blah. So when I became aware of that, it became a little bit easier to forgive. And when I finally forgave, no more, it's like I could think about them and it was like, I almost felt like a sociopath because I was like, I don't really feel anything. Like I don't feel joy, I don't feel anger, I don't feel anything. So yeah, think about it. When it comes to depression or emotional pain, like anxiety, why do people fear the future? Because they had a shit past. Makes sense. And it's also, what are you putting in your body? Like sugar can cause anxiety. Caffeine can cause anxiety. Nicotine can cause anxiety. Crack can cause anxiety. Cocaine can cause anxiety. Marijuana can cause anxiety. Because what's going on is as soon as you put the stimulant in, your body's now been no thoughts, substance, and your mind's like, oh, I got thoughts. I got thoughts right now. I got thoughts in my subconscious, and yeah, I can play it. So like until I became aware of this, I'd have a couple of cups of coffee in the morning and everything else, and I'd be like, well, I had a great weekend. Why the like life is good right now. Why? Where the hell is this coming from? Like, why am I feeling sad? Why am I feeling angry? Why am I feeling anxious? And it'd be like, oh, it's like I've got nothing in my body right now except caffeine, and that caffeine is crashing. So the mind and body, two-way street. So in my stomach, which a lot of people call the second brain, Google that, is that I now, and also serotonin that we feel gets released in the stomach too. So happy thoughts, happy stomach. So the caffeine was like the way I kind of pictured is that like, okay, so my body goes into anxious mode, like it feels anxious without the thoughts. And my mind's like, oh, I know that feeling. Let me go get thoughts to match that feeling. And also now I'm in a loop. So anytime you're feeling anxious or angry or whatever, do the check. Do the check. Be like, what's in my body and where are my thoughts at? And where's my tolerance at? Because tolerance is a good indicator, being like, am I being tolerant right now with people, traffic, everything else? Because if you're not being tolerant, you've got emotional pain. And it could be caused mostly by the subconscious, can be by the conscious, and it can be by diet. So safe. This works. I want children to learn this. I want you to teach this to your children. I want to come up with the best videos that are so easy. Like everything that I showed you picture wise, I designed. Like it was like, okay, let me, I need to picture this. This is the way I work. I need to visualize something in order to see it kind of work. And if I can create the right videos, like I've got 1,000 visions in my head with like zero budget. But I believe to get there because you know what? Mental illness and addiction runs in my family. And I believe addiction, I really do believe this. And I know in this world of relativity, there's no absolutes. But I haven't met one person yet who's in recovery or not in recovery and is addicted attached to emotional pain. Think about it. We don't like the way we feel. So we got to distract ourselves. One of the biggest things that cause crime in teenagers, drug use and everything else, and even in adults, well, we can minus the crime part mostly, is one word: boredom. Like if you know anybody who's been to recovery, like they have an out plan. Like, what are you gonna do now? We got you clean and everything else. So what's the plan? Like people, places, things. What are we going to avoid? What are we going to do? And blah blah blah. But they have their one section on boredom. That's how important it is. One section. What are you going to do if you get bored? Are you going to call a friend, go for a walk, do a workout, blah blah blah, this and that, blah blah blah. Bored. Now, what is boredom? Boredom is literally you sitting with you and you don't like it. Being like, yeah, no, I'm bored. I can't sit with me. If you tell me I got to sit with me, I'm going to lose my mind. It's boredom because you can't. And what I believe, yes, it can be by diet. It can be like the physicality of where the body's at right now, like what's in the body, but it's also subconscious pain. And yes, I'm sure some smart person on a biological level, someone's just wired like the body's never relaxed, everything else, and whatever, sure. But boredom, really, for most people, is that you just can't sit and be with you. You don't like you. You need a distraction because sitting with you sucks. So, and they'll give you every which way to get out of boredom instead of saying, sit in it, sit in your boredom. It'll pass. Learn from your boredom. If you're willing to sit in it long enough, you will get answers on why you are bored. So if you realize what makes you bored on an emotional level, on a thinking level, you become empowered. So it's been an hour. Nobody has called. And this lighting thing's kind of pissing me off. But I think I got enough across that if someone were to watch this video and skim through certain parts, my message is out there. Because I promise you, healing your emotional pain is not difficult when you realize how it's generated. It's not. And there might be certain things that you cannot accept in life. There could be certain things that you cannot forgive. But wouldn't you rather have 1 to 2 things that you don't accept or you can't forgive instead of a whole smorgasbord of experiences that are just unforgiven, unhealed? I can go into more detail of that next time. But I'm gonna keep doing this until I win the lottery. Actually, if I won the lottery, I'd probably do it more with a badass budget. But right now, man, I need to get the message out. I need to show somebody because, oh, and by the way, everything that I'm teaching you or showing you, this is not a gimmick. I'm giving away for free. I'm giving it away for free. Like it's on my website, jeffreycairns.com, Facebook page, Twitter, whatever. I don't know, man. It's just, that shit gives me anxiety when I think about it because I don't want to, but it's the nature of the beast. So anyways, I believe humans deserve to be happy, but no one's really taught us how to be happy. I figured out a way. I've got a cure for depression and emotional pain. There's many roads that lead to Rome, but safe. Stay safe. Teach your kids how to feel safe. Teach your kids to empathize. Teach your kids to forgive. Teach your kids to fucking surrender to their emotions. It's not weak. I probably missed one. Surrender, acceptance, forgive. Empathy. Empathy works. And yeah. So on that note, hopefully this is the first of many. But we'll see. My name is Jeff Cairns, and thank you for not watching me live. Airshare, you want to stop streaming?